Hi, Jason Tako. Hope you're all doing well. Today I'm going to be doing a video demonstration of this charcoal drawing here. Obviously I'm doing this after the drawing was done, but the demonstration, it's going to be time-lapsed. However, you're going to want to stick around because I'm going to be stopping periodically and talking about some of the techniques, some of the materials I use and everything. So enjoy the video, make sure you stick around and leave your comments, questions below, and if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and please subscribe if you haven't done so. It really helps me to keep making these videos. You can see I have a number of them already and they're going to keep coming. Okay, the first thing I'd like to talk about as I break in here in the middle of this demonstration is the feeling of action. A lot of people, when I posted this drawing on social media, they commented that it had a nice feeling of movement, of action and everything. And there are certain ways to achieve that. Primarily what you're going to want to focus on is your edges. If you look at this drawing here, you're going to see the hair, compared to the model had shorter hair in this, or his hair wasn't out. But in the drawing here, you can see that the hair is kind of flowing back. It looks like it has wing going through it. I think that really helped emphasize some of the feeling of motion. The other thing is, the mane of the horse, that's kind of flowing all over. Now, I had the luxury of a nice reference photo, which, it kind of gave that to me just as it was. So I lucked out there. The other thing is the edges. You can see as you look on the drawing here, I don't have a whole lot of really hard defined edges. Some of these edges are a bit loose. You can almost say they're slightly messy, but if I had gone in and really defined like the outlines of the horse's legs and just other parts of this drawing, it would have made it stiff. It would have really locked it in place. And the thing about not having perfectly defined edges when you're trying to show action is that it doesn't lock the object in its place. It breaks that boundary, if you will. It gives it somewhat of a feeling of movement. Even if the edge is a little messy, that can give it a nice feeling of movement. Some artists will take this even further. I mentioned in a previous video about Manfred Schatz. His paintings were just absolutely phenomenal for capturing wildlife in motion. But big thing is, if you want to emphasize action, really focus on your edges. Okay, breaking into the video demonstration again, I'm going to talk a little bit about the materials I use and talk a little bit about a really neat and kind of unorthodox blending tool that I came across. First thing is, what am I drawing this on? I'm drawing this on Strathmore Tone Tan Mixed Media paper. They have a Tone Tan sketch paper. It's a little thinner, and I have a bunch of that too. That's great for working out sketches and more loose drawings and everything. But when I'm doing something that I want to have to be more finished, more for display and not for selling, I'm usually going to use this heavier paper. It's 185 pound weight per sheet, actually 184, I'm sorry, per sheet. But it's really good. Having that thicker paper, it's a little more durable in case I'm erasing something and it doesn't, the eraser doesn't catch it and bend it as easy. And also, if I'm going to be selling something like this drawing here, which the size 11 by 14 is going to sell for $900 framed, I'm going to want to make sure that I'm offering the customer, the collector, a quality paper. I do also have prints of this, same size, 11 by 14 for $100. There's links below in case you are interested in getting, and it's an unframed print, but it's done on archival rag paper, and they're signed and limited. But anyway, that's about the paper that I use. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the blending. Charcoal is really great for blending, but on this paper, it doesn't always blend quite as smoothly as you might find on other papers. I love this paper because I love this tone tan. I'm not aware of other papers where you can get this kind of color, and it really works well for the kind of nostalgic feeling of historical Native American work. But like I said, sometimes the blending can be, it's not always quite as smooth when you're using like a chamois cloth or a blending stump or something like that. But one way to get really smooth blending is using charcoal powder. This is Create-A-Color charcoal powder, and I'll have a link to this below. There's other charcoal powders too you can use by other brands, but this is the one at least that I'm using for now. And the other thing is, this is a makeup sponge. I actually saw this on another video, but I've rarely seen it done. They didn't explain on that video what they were using, and my wife helped me figure out that it was probably a makeup sponge. And what you do is, let me demonstrate this for you. You take the makeup sponge, you dip it into this powdered charcoal, and you don't ever want to drop this because you'll have a royal mess. And then you go up to your paper with this sponge, and that's loaded with the charcoal powder, and just put it on there. You can put it on very light, if you will. You can put it on, fairly with a lot more pressure, and you can see just how smooth that gets. I can go in here and get ultra smooth tones and blending. It gives you some really nice halftones, and I use this a lot when I'm doing, well, first of all, if I want to blend, get something really smooth, like a certain tone on a horse or something like that, and I want that part to be smooth, this sponge is wonderful for that. And then what I'll do is I will go back in and just rework these areas, if you will. So now I can take this hack brush here. This is just a Langnickel hack brush, and I can, this paper holds onto the charcoal pretty well. But I can just kind of smooth it out a little more like this, just rough it up somewhat. That gives it a nice effect. Here's a chamois cloth. You can see the chamois is going to actually take more charcoal off than you get with the brush, which really surprised me at first. When I got this brush, I thought it was going to really dig into the charcoal and create a lot of lines, but that's not what happened. Then I can go in with a kneaded eraser. It's going to take quite a bit more off. You can see there how I can do a nice, really smooth tone, if you will, and then kind of cut back into that, draw back into that for grasses and things like that. How you shape the kneaded eraser, is going to depend on what you get. I usually don't use a kneaded eraser if I want to show really fine lines of grass, but I might more, rough it up like this, if you will. And that kind of gets me closer there. For the really fine lines, I'm going to use this electric eraser here. I'll have a link to this below if you're interested in this. It's a little more expensive, but I tell you what, I really love this tool. You can sharpen it on sandpaper, and you'll see this in the video if you haven't already. And I can go in and do some really fine lines with this eraser just by turning it on. Might be a little reminiscent of a dentist drill, but it works wonderfully.